Hello everyone, this is Gaius Bolling here with a review of the latest return of Leatherface in 2022's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Is this a return to form for the franchise? Let's find out. In the film, Melody, her entrepreneur friends, and her sister Lila come to the small town of Harlow, Texas, with hopes of renovating the area. Unfortunately, their arrival ends up reawakening the deadly Leatherface, who begins to slaughter the newcomers. Meanwhile, the sole survivor of Leatherface's original killing spree, Sally Hardesty, re-emerges to take down the murderer. Of all the big horror franchises featuring iconic movie murderers, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre represents one truly mixed bag. Tobe Hooper's 1974 original film is a true classic of the genre and remains one of the best horror films of all time, but subsequent entries have never really lived up to what Hooper achieved with that movie. Sequels like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 have since gone on to become fan favorites while gaining a cult following along the way, but most of them range from mediocre to downright awful. The brand saw a resurgence when the 2003 remake became a bit of a surprise hit, but once again, the films that followed saw a gradual decline in quality. By the time we got to Texas Chainsaw 3D in 2013 and Leatherface in 2017, it seemed like it was time to truly put this franchise to bed. But proof that you just can't keep a horror franchise down for too long, Legendary Pictures came around and swooped up the franchise's rights to give us a brand new take on the concept. How can they possibly make us forget some of the sequels that simply didn't work? They pull a Halloween 2018 on us and make this new film a direct sequel to the 1974 original. In other words, let's pretend like none of the other entries actually exist. This worked for Halloween in 2018, which garnered positive reviews and big box office, so it couldn't hurt to try the very same thing with 2022's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The key difference is movie theaters are being skipped for this one, and the film will be making its debut on Netflix. Likely an easy buy for the streamer, since the name recognition alone will guarantee that the target audience flocks to the platform to watch it. I'm going to co-sign that this was a smart move on their part, because while the film is entertaining enough and doesn't overstay its welcome at a slim hour and 23 minutes, Texas Chainsaw Massacre would likely not see the box office bonanza that Halloween did in 2018. The film lacks a certain mass appeal to attract casual moviegoers, and it still falls a tad short as a legacy sequel to the original film. The connection to Tobe Hooper's horror classic seems tacked on at best, and it's not given enough screen time to really draw you back into the 1974 movie. That being said, director David Blue Garcia, along with cinematographer Ricardo Diaz, create some solid tension and visuals that stick with you, and horror fans will be happy to learn that the film does not skip on the gore. There are some truly relentless sequences of violence that have stuck with me since watching the film last week. For this alone, the film earns a recommendation for horror fans, but the uninitiated may not be encouraged to take this trip to Texas. The film certainly starts off on the right foot, with John Larroquette providing his signature narration for the opening crawl of the movie, as he did with the 1974 original film and the 2003 remake. Soon we find ourselves with our main characters as they arrive in Harlow, Texas. There is a group of would-be victims, and you learn quickly that you really only need to get to know about two of them, since the rest are only developed enough to quickly dispatch them. Melody, played by Sarah Yarkin, is a San Francisco moneymaker who drags her sister Lila, played by Elsie Fisher, with her on this latest business trip out of fear of leaving her alone in the city. We learn through some quickly edited flashbacks and filler dialogue that Lila has gone through a traumatic event, and Melody has some guilt about not being there for her. It's a backstory we don't necessarily need, but it's a valid attempt to humanize both of the characters before the madness begins. Given the film's slim runtime, it's not long before it becomes clear that this trip was a bad idea, and they have stumbled upon something that began wreaking havoc in 1973. Hearing word that Leatherface has resurfaced in the most gruesome way possible, survivor Sally Hardesty, originally played by the late Marilyn Burns, but portrayed by Olin Foray in this film, springs into action to put an end to him once and for all. Oddly enough, the Sally Hardesty bits that provide a bridge to the original film are what works the least. This is no real fault of the filmmakers, since Marilyn Burns passed away in 2014, but having the role recast creates a bit of a disconnect. As a viewer, we know this isn't the Sally Hardesty that memorably shrieked her way through some of the most iconic moments of the original film. This isn't like seeing the return of Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode in 2018's Halloween. Olin Foray does an adequate job, but the odds are against her because the fans are aware that she didn't star in the original movie. Making the Sally Hardesty aspect of the story even more problematic is that it feels extremely tacked on. After her initial introduction, She's absent from large portions of the film, and since the movie is selling itself on her return, how she's used during the climax especially falls flat. As far as the new characters are concerned, only Sarah Yarkin's Melody and Elsie Fisher's Lila make an impression. The rest of the young cast are merely waiting for their moment to get slaughtered. Sarah Yarkin ends up being a truly capable final girl, and I'll give her all the credit for being a trooper through what appears to have been a very messy shoot. They put this girl through the paces, but she's 100% committed and ends up giving a strong performance. Elsie Fisher, who I haven't seen in anything since 8th grade, is also solid as Lila, and she forms a strong sisterly bond with Yarkin that does just enough to make us root for their survival. Performers like Jacob Lattimore, Nell Hudson, and Jessica Lange only register with me because of how they died. I suppose that's enough of a compliment in a slasher film though. The slasher aspect is where director David Blue Garcia shines. There are some intense moments of violence and gore that up the ante with each subsequent kill. Nell Hudson's Ruth is featured during a tense scene after a police car is wrecked, and she has to try and remain quiet as Leatherface cuts someone's face off in the background. The way Garcia sets up the shot is effective, and it definitely ups the tension to a 10. The film's best moment, that I'll just dub the Bus Massacre, will have horror fans cheering because of how truly ruthless it is. Taking a group of extras, putting them on a confined bus, and having Leatherface chainsaw his way through, creating maximum carnage, is the kind of moment you hope for in a film like this. Garcia's camera doesn't shy away from showing you every bit of gruesome detail in the scene, and I'm sure it's bound to become a fan favorite. Mark Burnham's imposing performance as Leatherface is also a highlight. This is a character without much on the page, so you need someone with the physicality to elicit fear, and Burnham has what it takes. Just watching him chase after some of the characters elevates the pulse, and I imagine that the late Gunnar Hansen will be proud of his portrayal. Texas Chainsaw Massacre will do enough to please horror fans in the moment and provide a rather quick time of entertainment, but I don't think it does quite enough to elevate it to the level of needing to live in this world again. It's certainly better than Texas Chainsaw 3D and Leatherface, and I was never bored throughout the film. But I'm not 100% convinced I need to see Leatherface do his business again. The film's streaming success will determine where the franchise goes from here, but it will need to reinvent the wheel a bit to justify another gruesome stay in the Texas heat. I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10.
He was wearing a mask. Not easy to locate someone if you don't know what they look like.
So Harlow is a ghost town.
We have a vision for this place. All it needs is young blood.
I don't want to live here. This is a chance for people to start fresh somewhere. Somewhere safe.
Hey guys, you should see this.
What are you doing in our house? You really shouldn't be here.
This is Hardesty.
Sally, I'm afraid your old friend's back.
50 years I've been waiting for this night. Just to see him again.
Who?
Leatherface. Looks like it's you that he wants.
I'm not gonna let him kill you. Fear no evil. Fear no evil.
Try anything and you're canceled, bro.
Oh, fuck.